second, I totally thought that was it.
It
What's
was,
up, y'all?
yeah, it's like, oh, by the way, we're live. Not a big deal.
We're live.
Hey, guys.
And
Thanks for joining us. My name is Vanessa Leon. I'm a local real estate expert in the Sacramento area. I'm joined by Keith Collins, market leader.
hey, how y'all doing?
The lone guy.
The lone
He
guy.
loves it when I say this.
What are you going to say?
I'm not going to say it. You know what I was going to say. Just kidding. Inside joke. Not going to go there.
Okay.
Hey,
All
we
right.
are here to give you another Sacramento real estate market update. We talk about trending things. We talk about what's going on in the real estate market just to give you an update for the month. We are in April, so we're going to cover everything kind of that we can up until this point with the stats that we do have. A friend of ours, Ryan Lundquist, puts together some great content and graphs for us. We're going to be using some of his stuff today and kind of talking about that. So I'm excited to get into this and give you guys some value so you can know exactly what's going on, because everyone's hearing all kinds of things. And let's face it, it can get a little crazy. But we're going to talk about the California Dream for All program, which has been hyped lately. A lot of people have been talking about it. We're going to talk about how competitive, surprisingly, the Sacramento market is right now. We're going to talk about concessions and inventory and sales and all that good stuff. We'll kind of give you an interest rate update on where interest rates are at this week. And then just a few items of value on the show for you. So want to get started. Before we get started, Keith, like what is the number one thing right now that you're seeing like in the Sacramento real estate market in general when working with buyers?
Yeah, man. So, there's an interesting thing, and I may answer this question a little bit differently for you here. But, what the California Dream showed us is that there's a tremendous amount of demand in the market, like a ridiculous amount of demand. A program that had $360 million of available funds went in 10 business days. Like that's just crazy. It's like it was here and now it's gone.
And so let's cover that. Like, let's talk about that. Let's dig into that then.
Because that is the big topic. The big topic with a lot of people is we had all these people come into the system, to get qualified for the California Dream. And then literally like before they were able to write an offer, the program was gone. We got, 4 or 5 people in contract under it, which is awesome. But we've got a ton of people that we got pre-approved and now we're having to pivot to other programs. So I think that's probably the biggest conversation we're having on a regular basis. But yeah, so California Dream. So California rolled a program. And it was really interesting how they did it. So early March, they came out and said, well, there's actually some rumors that were coming in February that they were going to do a new program, but nothing had been released. And then early March, like the 3rd or the 4th, they say, hey, they offer a 3-page bulletin that was very vague, but says, we're coming with a program. It's going to be released on March 27th. It's going to be a shared appreciation program. And it's really important. People are calling it a shared equity. That's different. It's a shared appreciation program. We're going to give you up to 20% down payment that you do have to repay. And then when you sell that home, you have to share in the appreciation of the property with us. Pretty cool. But that was it. That's all they gave us. And then on March 27th, they're like, it's live, go. And they gave lenders guidelines and everything. Like literally prior to that date, we didn't know what we were working with. And so it was a lot of work for a lot of opportunity for a small amount of people because it literally ran out of money in 10 business days.
Yeah, and we had the Equity Builder program last year, which the qualifications were harder and the money lasted, I don't know, 6 months or so.
Yeah, it was less money. So it was the same amount of money or so, but it was in terms of what the program had not to offer the individual, but in general to offer out to the state of California. The Equity Builder was cool because it was a forgiven loan after 5 years of payments, and it was 10. I actually think the Equity Builder was better personally, because you don't have to repay it. You didn't have to repay it, and you didn't have to share in the appreciation of the property.
Yeah.
The cool thing with Dream for All buyers using the program. See ya. The cool thing with this is, and the reason why I think it went so fast is 3 reasons actually. One, the income limits were really high. I mean, we don't need to be offering, in my opinion, some people might get mad at me, but we don't need to be offering down payment assistance to people who make $250,000 a year. I just don't think so.
Yeah,
right?
Like Placer, Sacramento, and El Dorado was $202,000. I mean, that's
$202,000. But there were some counties in California it went up to like $380,000 in total income. I'm sorry, $280,000 in total income. And it's just, I don't think that that's needed. But that allowed a larger population to enter into the program.
Yeah.
And then, the other reason I think honestly went so fast is the real estate market has been depressed a little bit, right? And I'm saying more like emotionally depressed, right? We have seen, we did see property values come down a little bit. We saw demand completely leave with interest rates. And then all of a sudden there's this bright, shiny light for real estate agents and loan officers to go out to the mass with. And I think they went out to the masses and got a ton of people interested. And there was a huge hype about the program. And
It was. I mean,
a huge hype. I
we
haven't
did,
seen a hype
we
like this
did
in a long
tons of
time.
videos around it. We were talking about it, and some members from our team were able to get 2 people in escrow using the funds. They've secured the funds because then there was so much hype around it. There were so many people trying to get it that even the people that had the applications in and were trying to qualify, they couldn't even schedule the classes that they needed to take in order to get the money. They were out. The rumor was they were out until like June for their.
Yeah, it was till June. Yeah, they fixed that, but you didn't have to take the class to reserve the funds.
Sure.
So you could get into contract. So you could get into contract without the class, and then as soon as you're in contract, you could lock and reserve the funds. Loan didn't need to be approved, and that was like, so there was a lot of variances. Some lenders weren't allowing people to lock, and it's a bunch of issues. But yeah, so you could technically get into contract, get the lock, reserve the funds, and then try to take the course.
But Keith, that brings us into kind of like, let's talk about what that's done. Like if you look at the next graph of pending sales in the SAC region right now, we'll have that pulled up here in a second. The competitiveness at which 500,000 and under is, I mean, look at Sacramento County. There's 187 actives and 503 pendings. Yeah. I can't remember the last time we've seen that many pendings with the limited inventory we have. We look in Placer County, we got 43 active, 77 pendings. That's more than average. We'll show some more graphs here in a minute, but the great thing about it is it gave buyers an opportunity that didn't have a huge funds for down payment, that made decent money. It gave them an opportunity to own a home. And that showed us how much of a demand there was, because we've been in an affordability crisis with the high interest rates. That affordability has been down for buyers. And so now it's the affordability and demand together that this created. And now the houses under 500,000, and in some markets under 600,000 here in the region are, gone. They were gone as soon as they came up. So it's going to be interesting to see next month's numbers, to see how many of those actually closed, right? Because we have such a jump in pendings. I think we're going to have more information next month on that.
Yeah, I think and some of those are going to fall out. Some people aren't going to get qualified. They locked it early. The program will come back with a limited release. So there's the notion that there's reserve funds. We're thinking the program is going to come back at a smaller amount. When you have a program like this and this much interest, there's a couple of things that CalHFA, California Housing Finance Administration, had to be aware of. One is like, you can't overextend, because they have a certain amount of money and they can't commit to more of it because they just don't have it. So they have to shut it off early, because they don't want to, get people into contract and reserve funds that aren't available. So they're always going to stop it short. The second thing is, there was emails we're getting from CalHFA where they're like, we have 3-hour wait times on our phones. We're getting 1,400 emails a day. We can't handle this demand. And so there was a point where they honestly, I think they paused it early too, because they were just like, because now they've got to work through all those files, right? 3,000 plus files in 10 days. Yeah, that's a lot. So it will be interesting. But the demand is there. People want to buy homes, and I think that's what this showed us. There are still down payment assistance programs available. They're not as good as this one. There will be down payment assistance programs coming in the future. We're releasing one on May 1st. Nothing's going to be like the dream for all, but we're releasing one for May 1st. It's forgivable after a period of time, and it's going to help a lot of people, and it's got higher income limits. So I'm hoping what this has done is shown the industry that there is a demand for some sort of additional down payment assistance. And I'm excited that Movement jumped in and is offering something, and I'm assuming other lenders are going to do something similar.
And so this goes out to all the buyers that maybe were looking at the program and couldn't get there fast enough, or didn't secure a house. There are other down payment assistance programs out there. Some are even by city, some are by actual lender or lending institution. So, if you're curious about what you may qualify for, or want to know more about down payment assistance programs, just send me a DM or shoot me a text or a call, and ask some questions, and we'll get you connected with Keith so you can see what you qualify for and what's available to you, based on your scenario. But let's look at the next graph. And the next graph I like because it talks about the actives and pendings by price range, right? Under 600, like I was saying, the demand is crazy. But as we look at, we're going to get it up here in a second. As we look at the actives and pendings, the $300,000 to $600,000 price range is crazy, right? You can't look at the super low price ranges because under 300,000, you're not really getting a house in most cases in Sacramento area. You may be able to qualify for some condos between 200 and 300,000, and then as soon as you get to a higher price point, there's just not as much data, not as many houses available, things like that. Once you get well over 1.5 million, 2 million, but looking at these numbers, we're just showing how crazy it is compared to the actives and how much the pendings are, in some cases double of what the actives are. And we don't see that normally. Now, this is Sacramento, Placer, El Dorado, Yolo counties, but the Sacramento region. But again, just like we said before, we're really going to be able to see next month because pendings are pendings and they're not sold. They're not closed until they actually close. So I'm curious to see what the numbers look like next month and how many of those come back on the market, which will to some people look like kind of fake inventory, right? Because we have almost 50% less inventory than we did this time last year. I think it's like 45% as a region. It's crazy the amount of inventory that we have compared to last year. So,
and I think, what it is, I mean, people are house hostage. And so that's the thing. I mean, if you look at, loans in America, 82% of all loans existing in America are at 4% or under. And so, interest rates have come down a lot recently, which is awesome, from their highs. They're in the high fives, low sixes. And I think they're going to continue to trend down as inflation numbers subside, which they did. Inflation came down a little bit today, not as much as we would like to see with the core inflation number. But May should be a better number, and we should start to see interest rates come down a little bit more. But what's happening is you've got people who are traditional sellers in the market, but they're sitting on a 2-3% 30-year fixed, and they're looking at a 6, and they're saying, screw that, like I'm staying, even though I want to. And so we're calling them house hostage. And so I think all that inventory would normally come to the market, and it's not coming to the market because.
Well, that's the problem, Keith. Where are they going to go? I mean, you have the 6% interest rate, and then they're typically buying up. They're buying a larger house, $200,000 or $300,000 more. And so
that's what I'm saying is all across 80% of the mortgages in America are at 4% or under. So like everybody, right? So the people that would be selling and buying the house that they normally buy, and that person saying, well, I'm not selling because I've got a 2% 30-year fixed. And so I think that becomes a challenge. And if interest rates come down and continue to come down, I think that does free up some of that. Like you have pent up demand, and I think you also have pent up inventory. You have people.
The low supply and the affordability of it all is that's like Houston. We have a problem. Like we're in tough shape right now as a market, and these programs that lenders and other programs that are going to come out with down payment assistance are going to be a help. But until affordability gets better, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. We're going to look over some volume here in a minute. Yeah, it's like a limbo. Like that's how low it is. Like, I mean, how many people can go that low? I don't know, Keith. You're probably that limber.
I don't got that in my bag.
10 years ago, I could have done that. But yeah, so let's move on to kind of concessions. So it's crazy competitive as far as houses are going to contract quickly. The price range from 300 to 600,000. So let's kind of go into the concessions and how that's working with the markets now. Before we do that, this is the actives and pendings by price range. This gives you another look. And as you can see, the $300,000 to $600,000 range is pretty insane. And then there's just less sales, right? As you get into the higher price points, that's kind of what I was talking about before. But these numbers are going to be completely different next month because a lot of this was because of the program and what people can qualify for. And when you have, the median house price for the region, in the high fives or so, it makes sense for us to see these kind of numbers, the active versus the pending. So let's head to the next one. So the percentage of sales concession. So this is kind of a weird one because if it's competitive right now and houses are selling quicker, if it's competitive in these price ranges, how are buyers still able to get concessions? And concessions, for those of you who don't know, when we get into contract or when you get into contract on buying a house, you'll do inspections. And typically, either at the beginning of the process, you'll ask the seller to credit you back some money for closing costs, or there will be some sort of concessions instead of repairs. So if there's $10,000 of repairs, it's not uncommon for a buyer to ask for, hey, like $10,000 instead of repairs, and you can use that for whatever you choose. But we're seeing that it's much higher. So if you look at this time last year, it was in the low 20% of houses that we're seeing concessions, and now it's in the mid to high 40s. It has gone down over the past few months, but there was a time I remember November, December, where houses just weren't moving. And I mean, we're talking about it was stagnant, it was stale. And so sellers were willing to do anything. If they had to sell their house, they were giving concessions. There was this like weird little 2-month period. And so now we're getting more into a time where we're having multiple offers. I out there with buyers writing offers.
We were banging the drum on there's a window for a home buyer, and it was then.
It was then. And we're writing 2 offers, right? On 2 different properties. And one had 8 offers and one had 9 offers. And they happened to be great houses that checked all the boxes. But, advice to buyers right now is like, if you find the house that checks every box, there's a chances are you're going to be competing with other buyers, but there is an opportunity for houses that are overpriced. So looking at houses that are overpriced, looking for houses that have been on the market for a while, that need a little bit of work, that might not be in the perfect location, but have some opportunity there. If you're open to that, there's still an option there because concessions are still happening. Buyers are still getting them. And as long as we're seeing concessions happen, that means there's opportunities for buyers to help with their closing costs, or to be able to get into a house that there's some repairs that they might like to make that will help them be able to feel more comfortable in their home. Yeah. Anything to add?
Nailed it.
Yeah, it was pretty simple. So let's talk about less time. It's taking less time to sell than normal. Let's go to that graph. Keith, you can cover this one.
Changes in sales volume by price. So this time last year. So this is just sales volume. So this isn't how quickly it is to take into.
It's the previous graph there. Yeah, it's the previous.
Sorry.
Graph. That's all right.
Yeah. So changes in sales volume. That's paper. I actually have right here. So the previous graph, well, on mine, I have changes in sales volume, and then we have the seller concessions.
Yeah. So, sorry, if you go in the change it right below the graph below, percentage change in volume from last year.
You're going to have to explain this one, my brother.
No,
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, no, I'm looking at it, and I don't think I've seen this one before. So this is percentage change from last year by sales volume.
Yeah. So
we're down. So we're selling 30 to 50% less homes this time.
Yes.
Than this time than last year. Yep, exactly. So
and that's the whole gist of it. And it's easier if you look at both of these graphs side by side, right? But we don't have to do that. But the point is, 30 to 50% less homes we're selling than this time last year. And that just tells you less volume, more demand.
Well, I think also too, I mean, this time last year, interest rates were in the 4s.
There you go.
Right. So we didn't see the run up in interest rates started running up March 2022. And from March 2022 to October 2022, they went from like 4% to 7.5%. And it was one of the largest mortgage interest rate increases in that duration of time on record. And so so we're sitting here. And so if you look at that, we're sitting here with much higher interest rates.
Yep.
I think that's the thing. And that's the change. I mean, I think in most, if we look at the greater Sacramento market, there's an argument to say, maybe, there's some tech sector jobs and things like that have been lost. But if we look at our labor, I don't want to say labor industry, but if we look at, the labor market, in general, in the greater Sacramento area, Placer County area, it is healthy. It is strong. People are gainfully employed. If you look at year over year numbers, we've lost jobs in some sectors, but we're gaining in others. So we're actually still adding jobs. So if we look at the market, like what changed?
Yeah, I mean,
Literally, the only thing that changed is interest rates,
interest rates are the main piece of that. And so, hey,
which caused affordability, right? But it's not, this isn't something that changed because the housing market could crash or is crashing or we're losing jobs or we're entering into a recession. It's literally interest rates.
so yeah, great point. If you're watching this, guys, if you're watching this live, we'd love to hear your questions. We'd love to hear from you. Do all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But we'd love to hear your questions about the Sacramento market. We're just covering kind of what we think is important, but we'd love to hear from you. So bring your questions. So let's go to the change in sales volume by price. So we go to that graph that we showed earlier. So when we go to that graph and we compare it to the other graph, it's just the one that we had before that you had.
There you go.
Yep.
Change in sales volume by price.
So I think this is just good to see. It shows you how many houses in each price category there are. So when you look at, if you just take even 300 to 400,000 out of the equation, if you go 400 to 700,000, you see that's more than all the other ones combined. And so it maybe goes even a little higher than we think. As far as the price point, depending on where you are, right? Sacramento prices are a little bit different than Rockland, Roseville, Granite Bay, Loomis. And so it depends on where you are.
Yeah.
But looking at that, I think that's just a good indication. If you have any questions about this, feel free to ask. But yeah, let's move on. So we're about to wrap up here, but give us a kind of an update on where interest rates are right now.
Yeah, interest rates right now are in the high fives, low sixes. And it depends on the program, right? Depends on the program and the buyer. There's some amazing opportunities for first-time home buyers where, we've been throwing around this term a lot in the mortgage industry. It's loan level pricing adjustments. People don't really know what that means. It's like negative points on your driving record, right? So, you have a lead foot and you got some points on your driving record. Your auto insurance is more expensive. Loan level pricing adjustments basically operate the same way for interest rates, right? You have two identical twins. One has a really high FICO score, credit score. One has a really low credit score. The loan level pricing adjustments are what are causing those two identical people with different credit scores to get a different interest rate. And there's been a lot of manipulation within those loan level pricing adjustments recently, which are causing opportunities actually for people to get better interest rates that normally wouldn't. First-time home buyers, if you're in a certain price income, 124,000 in Placer County, those loan level pricing adjustments are like completely removed. So, you're getting the same interest rate as somebody who would normally with if you have a 660 FICO score, putting 5% down, buying a condo, you're getting the same interest rate as somebody who's got an 800 FICO score, putting 50% down right now. So, there's some interesting opportunities for certain segments of the population to take advantage of some of the things that the federal government is trying to do to stimulate housing. But from an interest rate standpoint, high fives, low sixes is kind of there. I think we're going to stay around that, hopefully around that range for the month of April. And then as we get into May and beyond, we should see interest rates kind of slowly trickle down. Interest rates go down like an escalator. They go up like an elevator, right? So it takes a while for them to trickle back down. But I don't necessarily think, if you're sitting there thinking, gosh, I'm waiting for my 2%, 3%, 4%, 30-year fixed, I just don't know if that's coming back. I don't think 2s and 3s are coming back. Maybe 4s, but if we can land in the, in the low to mid 5s, I think that's a very healthy place for interest rates. I think it brings those sellers or hostage their homes back into the market, and it brings affordability maybe a little bit back in line.
Yeah, and then that in turn will bring more inventory to the market, and people will be moving forward, both selling and buying. So excited to see that. So just wrapping up here, we kind of made a commitment as a team to go live every single week at 1 p.m. So thanks for joining us. And Keith will be with us every single month going over a Sacramento market update. But in talking with a lot of people that are moving from out of the area, I just want to give you guys a couple items of value here real quick. One of the main places people are moving to, they start their search in Sacramento, but then they end up moving to like Rockland, Roseville, Granite Bay, Loomis. Sacramento is great. Don't get me wrong. We help people all the time. But we created a guide. We started with Rockland. I live in Rockland. So we have the ultimate guide to moving and living in Rockland, California. It has everything from the best neighborhoods to, neighborhoods by price ranges, new home communities, why Rockland's so great, the pros and cons, everything you can imagine. We have that in a real concise guide for you. If you'd like a copy of that, just send me a DM or comment on this. We can connect and I can get that to you. And also, if you're watching this update, just seeing what's going on, and you're thinking about selling your house in the Rockland, Roseville, Sacramento area in general, we have finally put together our system and process in how we've been able to help people sell their house for top dollar in 5 days or less. The max price home sale system. We have really a simple 5-step system for you to start preparing your house and help you sell for the most amount of money, even in a market like this. So feel free to send us a message. We can and just send us max price or send us the Rockland guide, and we'll get that over to you. But Keith, how can people get in touch with you if they want to figure out what other loan programs are available?
Smoke signals. So you can, I don't know if Derek will throw this up here, but, just reach out. I mean, if you just Google Keith Collins Mortgage, you're going to find all kinds of stuff. You'll find my Yelp, you'll find my Google business, you'll find my website. But if you just Google Keith Collins Mortgage, you're going to find a ton of information about me. You can follow me on Instagram at Keith Collins Team. I'm putting out daily content just to educate people on how to finance real estate smart. All my contact information is there, my cell phone number, send a text, or you can book directly on my calendar. So I would say just Google Keith Collins Mortgage. You'll find information. If you land on my Instagram page, you'll easily be able to find me.
Love it. Hey, thanks so much for joining, guys. And we will see you next month with another market update. Keith, thanks for joining.